Good evening and welcome to Monday night's segment of the Horsefly Chronicles Radio with myself, Julia Siracusa, and Philip Siracusa. We're broadcasting live from the United Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 FM and 105.3 FM from New Orleans. This evening's show is sponsored by Carnation, so we want to thank them for their sponsorship. You will have to do a few things in order to participate. Go over to the YouTube channel, UFO Paranormal Radio, and get into chat. Subscribe if you haven't. You can go into all of the United Public Radio Facebook stations, Twitch, SoundCloud, and Podbeam. I can only respond to your comments on our YouTube channel on UFO Paranormal Radio. And if you have any questions for our guest, please ask. And you can also go over to UFO Undercover with Joe Montaldo on Facebook as well. Thank you, everyone. Tonight we have a great guest. I'm really excited to talk to him because he's got a lot of similarities to our story. And so it's going to be really interesting. So please welcome Patrick Meechan to the show. Patrick is the author of Nightmare in Holmes County and 225th Street. Both books document his experiences living in two consecutive yet unrelated haunted houses. Patrick's books are published by Beyond the Fray Publishing and specialize in demonic hauntings, spiritual warfare, and possession. So please let's welcome Patrick to the show.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for coming on.
So I was listening to you on another podcast, and I found your stories to be quite interesting. So for our listener and viewer out there, I always like our guests to take us to the beginning.
Yes.
Because this is an intriguing story.
Okay. I will say right up front, both of my books that are currently out are second editions. The original books were published 225th Street in 2011 in September. And then 2015, Nightmare in Holmes County was originally published as a prequel to 25th Street. So in 2020, in the fall, I was contacted by Shannon LeGros from Beyond the Fray Publishing, and they asked me if I wanted to have my books republished by them. And of course I did, but I told them, I'm aware that these stories have continued, the haunting activity, some of these things have continued since I wrote the books originally. So I believe if I'm going to have them republished, I really need to update the books, and I need to include all this information of what I know has happened since the time that I originally wrote the books. So they agreed that I should do that. And at that point, I began first rewriting Nightmare in Holmes County and adding quite a bit of information to that book, mostly information of things that happened in Holmes County since the time that I left Holmes County, which it's information that supports my claims, because of course, when you make the claims I've made, you're going to be scrutinized, called a liar, whatever. So I like to provide a lot of proof.
Patrick, wait, just stop 1 second. 1 second. There's an interference coming through, and you're breaking up so choppy. We're trying to make out the word. So, let me just check our system. Can you just check everything on your end as well? You're chopping up when you're speaking.
Can you hear us?
Yes, and everything on my end looks good. I'm not seeing anything whatsoever that appears like any kind of interference or anything like that.
When you're talking, it's chopping up. Are you on your regular data or Wi-Fi?
I'm on Wi-Fi.
Okay.
I am using a condenser mic. I don't know. I'll be honest. Sometimes when I do interviews, there is interference. Just being honest with you. Sometimes it's EVPs. Sometimes it's just technical.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, we understand that. Okay.
Okay. Let's take it again. Finish from where you left off, and let's see how it goes, because it was chopping up, and no one could probably make out the words.
Okay. So basically, both Nightmare in Holmes County and 225th Street were republished. I added a lot of additional information with Nightmare in Holmes County, it was released the second time around first, which is the proper chronological order. That story did happen first. And then a few months later, 225th Street, second edition, was released with a lot of information of the haunting of 225th Street and what has happened since 2011. So can you hear me okay now?
Oh yeah, you're in and out. Oh, you know, it's okay that it's not okay. So I mean, we're just trying to make do with it. I don't. It's on your end, not this end, or you know, but it could be an interference with the ghost.
Yeah.
Or it could be someone on your server.
Normally, I mean, like I said, everything here looks good. I will tell you, I did an interview a couple weeks ago. It has not broadcast yet. And that interview, there was EVPs on the host's end. The interview was recorded on 2 tracks. On his track, there are voices reacting to what I was saying in the interview. So these things do happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, we know that.
Yeah.
Now you're sounding good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now you're sounding good. So let's try to finish
probably,
up from there.
Probably my mom's out there praying somewhere. She knew I was going to be doing the interview. So knowing her, she's watching it and she started praying.
Aw.
But that's just kind of how it goes, you know. But so backing up then, the stories themselves start all the way back in 2001. In the fall of 2001, me and my now ex-wife purchased a piece of land in Holmes County to build what we thought would be our dream home. We thought we would live there happily ever after. And it turned out, you know, that dream home turned out to be a nightmare. I went through a lot in the time leading up to 2010 when I finally left Holmes County. But it started off, you know, even when the house was being built, there were things that I couldn't really explain that were happening. You know, it started off, as often is the case in hauntings. I would be at the house working. We were having it built, and we did the woodwork, and we painted the whole inside of the house ourselves. We did the woodwork ourselves as far as finishing it, you know. So I would go there late at night a lot and be working on the woodwork. And I would always feel like somebody was watching me. And, you know, that can be as simple as I'm in an unfamiliar house. So I just have a little bit of an uneasy feeling, you know. But I noticed that I began taking a boom box, as we called them in those days, which was a radio that plays CDs. And I would listen to like worship music and Christian music, and it would kind of take the edge off of the uneasy feeling. So I'd just keep working and just kind of wrote it off. In the spring of 2002, they actually broke ground originally at very beginning of 2002. In March of 2002, the house was completely framed up. You know, the basement was built. The 2 stories were framed up. And I got a call from the builder one night, and he said, you know, I have never seen anything like this in all my life. And he was in his late 60s. He had been building houses. You know, he was born Amish, left the Amish faith, but he had started doing construction when he was a kid, you know. And he's telling me, I've never seen anything like this. He said, a storm came through and your house is leveled. He goes, it's flat. It's completely destroyed. So we then, everything had to be redone. They hauled away the wood, tore up, you know, all the damaged wood, tore it up, sold it off, and started over again. So we ended up the house was completed then late summer, early fall, and we moved in. And you know, during that, even the early stages of being in the house, we would hear strange noises. My, you know, wife at that time, she would tell me, you know, when you're at work, I hear noises that they're very creepy sounding. It sounds like the house is haunted, you know. So we hired some house inspectors to come in, and I don't mean like ghost hunters. I mean like people who inspect the construction site. And they identified multiple issues in the house that needed fixed. So we thought originally we were going to take legal action against the builder. As it turned out, you know, that was not a wise decision, because he was very friendly with the Amish. And when it came right down to the lawsuit, our attorney even quit responding to my messages. So at that time, we just went ahead. I paid a couple of guys I went to church with that worked construction, and they came to the house and fixed everything. Are you guys hearing me okay now? Okay, I can't hear you guys. If you're saying anything, I can't hear anything. I can't see your screen either at this point. So, okay, you guys got kicked off. Okay, we're going to try to reboot. Okay.
Oh, well, I guess Phil and them will be joining us in a minute. Maybe the aliens got them. Some demons or something.
Should I stay in the studio?
You good? Yeah, they're coming back. They got dropped. I just talked to them a second ago. I'm just waiting for them to pop back in so I can throw them back in the queue.
Very good. I'll turn my mic on as soon as they're ready. I mean, I'm sorry, not my mic, but my camera.
No, I don't blame you. You see me, I'm high. I ain't got mine on either at the moment. I just got off the air myself. It's
I don't know where I stopped. How much is still being broadcast? I don't know.
Well, we're still live. They just weren't with us.
I see.
Yeah, they are. They're back.
Yeah, they are.
Anyway, let me get out of here and I'll let Joe back to what y'all were doing. Let me out of here.
Joe.
It's no problem. Stuff happens. That's live
interference.
radio. Sometimes things go crazy.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Joe.
Okay, sorry about that, Patrick, Joe, and to all listeners out there. But technical difficulties. What is interesting is I'm going to just get on the show, Patrick. The bulb that's about 20 feet away from us in the basement started blinking, then just went dead. At the same exact time that everything was breaking up, and then the stream shut us off, the radio. Like we got kicked off.
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
That's interesting. And like you said, this happens.
Yeah, it does. I'm not surprised. I'm just going to be honest. When you're dealing with the demonic and you're exposing it, they don't just lay down and take the fight. They're gonna fight you, and they're gonna fight pretty viciously. And that's why these things happen. Honestly, many times in interviews over the years, I've had strange things happen. Even things happen to the people who interviewed me after they interviewed me. So it happens. It kind of goes with the territory.
Yeah.
I was kind of Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, you sound good.
Better now.
Okay. I was talking. I'm not sure. I'll pick up where I left off. That there were issues with the house. The way we found problems in the construction. A couple of gentlemen from my church came and fixed everything, and at that point we thought, okay, everything's going to be good now. We'll put all the negativity behind us. And one of the first things I noticed that was strange was we had a mud room. When you came out of the garage, there was a little room with a utility tub, a washer, dryer, a closet. And that is where I fed our cats. They had their litter box in the closet. They had their food dish in that little room. And then you walked out of there into the great room and into the house, the rest of the house, the way it was laid out and everything. So I'm standing in the mud room one night and the dryer door opens by itself. And I thought, man, that's weird, because the way a dryer door latches shut, that's strange, So I tried not to think about it a whole lot. And, as time went on, we ended up getting we had a cat named Moses. He was a big tabby cat, great cat. And then we got a kitten named Zoe, and Zoe was a little calico. And obviously a calico and a tabby cat do not look the same, but one night, my wife at that time, she had already gone to bed, and I was getting ready to go to bed. And I went into the mud room and I put food in the cat's dish. And all of a sudden, when I did that, I saw Zoe come running into the dish and go over and start eating. And I looked right at her and I thought, how cute. I mean, I plain as day, I remember this. I looked at her and I thought, how cute. I put the bag of food back into the closet, and I walked out of the room. I left her in there eating. I walked through the house into the foyer. I turned to go upstairs, and Zoe was sitting on the top step staring at me. And I thought, that's impossible. She can't be here because she's in the mud room eating. So then I thought, okay, that had to be Moses that came into the mud room, even though he's a big cat and she's a kitten. I must have somehow just thought that was Zoe, and it was really Moses. So I walked up the stairs, walked across the landing, entered the bedroom to find Moses on the bed with my wife. So the next day, she was sleeping. The next day, I told her about it, and I really didn't want to tell her, but I felt like I had to. And I did not want her to think I was crazy. But when I related the whole story to her, she said, "Oh, don't tell me that. Don't even tell me that." And I thought she was going to follow that with, "You're crazy," And she said, "Don't even tell me that." She said, "There's times when you're at work and I'm at home alone. I'm downstairs on the elliptical working out, and I see Moses run past out of the corner of my eye, and I think, there's Moses. And then I remember Moses is upstairs, the basement door shut. We don't even allow him in the basement, and he's not there." So the haunting started out subtly, just things that made you really question yourself. Am I imagining things? What is going on here? And it progressed over time. And I try to document all the instances in chronological order throughout the book. But eventually, we're having marital problems, not getting along at all. I felt like her behavior became strange. When we were dating, before we ever even got married, she would not watch scary movies. She hated them. And, after we both started kind of coming to grips with, there's something not right with this house, we started watching Ghost Hunters. We started watching, now you were talking the early 2000s, and we started watching that show. We started watching A Haunting because I felt like personally, it made me feel like I'm not crazy. These things really happen to people.
Yeah.
And, it kind of gave me a little bit of peace in some strange way because this stuff is legitimate. Eventually, we ended up getting a divorce. So starting, in October of 2006, I was there from that time all the way through the beginning of 2010 by myself. The divorce happened beginning of March 2007. And it was like after the divorce was over, it was like the activity escalated even more. And I began having things happen that, okay, this is for real. There's no explanation for this. One instance in particular, I was sitting in our great room, and I was sitting across from the fireplace. I was sitting on the couch. If I looked to my right, I could see all the way over to the other side of the house, the kitchen on the other side. The house was built with a very open concept. That's how we had kind of designed it how we wanted it. And we wanted an open concept. So I'm sitting there. I'm not scared. I'm not having a creepy feeling. Everything seems normal and fine. My two cats, Moses and Zoe, are sitting off to my left. And if I remember right, I was sitting on the couch eating, and I took a bite of food, and I just happened to glance up at the fireplace across the room from me. When I looked up, I'm looking straight ahead, and out of the corner of my right eye, I saw a black mass go right through the house, right through that open area, and disappear into the foyer. When I saw that out of the corner of my eye, I mean, I knew I saw it, but when I saw that at the same time, Moses and Zoe are to my left. I'm looking straight ahead. I can see them. Both of their heads looked up and went from the right to the left, following the trajectory of the mass, the black mass that just went through the room. They saw it as well. So I knew I was not imagining things. I had an instance. Now, there's many instances I could go into, but I mean, there's so many.
Well, yeah, let's talk about this black mass because we find that to be very interesting.
Yes. I'll be honest. I don't know why demonic spirits sometimes manifest that way. I'm going to say this. I know, like with shadow people and black masses and things like that, my take on that is kind of, is it that it is black in color, or is it that there is a complete absence of light where that is? And I'm kind of leaning towards there's a complete absence of light because the thing is completely evil. But for whatever reason, they manifest that way. That thing was seen in the house more than once, and not just by me, but, one night I went into the kitchen. It was about roughly around 1 o'clock in the morning. And I always would mix up apple cider vinegar and a glass of cold water, drink it right before I went to bed, just because it's supposed to be healthy. Okay. Well, I'm standing in the kitchen. I had no curtains over the window behind the sink. It is pitch black outside. I lived in the middle of nowhere. There's just farms around me. No neighbors were very close to me. There was just fields around me. And so it's pitch black outside. So I have the lights on in the kitchen. So when I look at the window, it's almost like a mirror. I can see my reflection plain as day. And I mixed up my concoction. I went to take a drink, and I tipped my head back a little bit to take a drink. And when I just looked at my reflection in the window, and I saw over my left shoulder, I saw a black shadow person. And when I saw it, it was like it knew I saw it, and it disappeared in a downward motion. Now, it probably wanted me to see it. It probably was trying to intimidate me, but it was seen, other times in the house. There was a lot of activity around the foyer. around the front door of the house. There is a reason for that. As I found out late in 2009, I found out why. And a lot of puzzle pieces fit together when I found out the reason for that. But
yeah, let me just jump in here really quick and ask you a question.
okay.
Because we know about the black shadows and the black mass because we've dealt with it a long time in the Horsefly Chronicles home. My question is, when the shadow was caught by the corner of the eye, how did you feel, you personally?
I'm going to be honest with you. It was strange. It happened so quickly. It was like it, I don't even want to say it startled me or scared me. It was just like, I was kind of like, I can't believe this. There it is again, you know. That instance did not, I can't say it scared me.
Right,
There
but
are
did you
instances
feel,
that
did
did
you
scare
feel
me.
like, did you feel drained? Did you have any thoughts going through your mind that were evil?
I would not, no. At that time, I don't think there was anything like that. I will tell you, there was a time in that house when, you know, I was at wit's end. You know, I went through a divorce I really didn't want. That's something that kind of drags you into some low places in the first place. But so, and I'm kind of going through this, and I feel like I'm trapped in this house. I'm now trying to sell it, and I'm getting no, you know, the economy collapsed, the housing market collapsed. I'm having absolutely no success trying to sell the house. And I felt like, you know, I'm a religious person, and there were times I felt like, God, what did I do to deserve this? Why am I trapped here? You know, am I this bad of a person that I deserve this? You know? And there was one night in particular, I was driving home from work, and you know, I said, God, I need a sign. I just give me a sign that you still care. That's how bad it was. That's what I really felt in that moment. So I go home, I turn on the TV. It was in April of 2008, if I remember right. And it turns out I find the Dove Awards, which is a Christian music awards show on TV. Now, I'm wearing a Third Day t-shirt right now. Third Day is a Christian band that I think they're an incredible band. No matter if they were secular or Christian, they're very talented. Their music speaks to me. I'll put it that way. It inspires me. So they're getting ready to go to a commercial, and the announcer says, when we come back, the new song by Third Day. I had never heard this song. So they come back, and there's a song called, the song's called Call My Name. And when I heard the song for the first time, I mean, this for me personally, is a very personal experience, but I felt like that song spoke to me in that moment. It was saying everything I needed God to say to me. And I felt like in that moment, the guy that wrote that song, his name is Mac Powell. I felt like when Mac Powell wrote that song, God knew that I was going to need to hear that someday. And I'm sure millions of other people too, because they needed somebody to speak to them on God's behalf, you know? And I felt like, okay, I got the strength to fight again. When I heard that, I was like, okay, I'm not giving up. I'm fighting, you know? So I felt like I had my batteries recharged. Well, then right after that, they had a tribute to Michael W. Smith. So he had done some worship stuff. So they're playing worship music, and I'm sitting there very much in a spirit of worship myself, just, you know, completely worshiping God, you know. And I heard a growl. I had my eyes shut, and I was just singing with the music on the television. I heard a growl that I can't tell you where it came from. It sounded like it came from every direction at the same time. And I remember I thought, I'm not even going to acknowledge that I heard that, because you're trying to interrupt me. And I'm not, you know, I'm not playing along, you know. But so in that instance, the reason I mentioned that is I was having very good thoughts. I felt like I was getting my batteries recharged to keep fighting. And something reared its ugly head in an attempt to intimidate me, even in a time when I was in a spirit of worship, you know. So I will tell you, there was a time when, you know, I had a lot of issues with the Amish when I lived there. They wanted my house, they wanted my land, and they were willing to do just about anything to get me to give up and sell it at an auction, because they fix auctions. And one night I had kind of, you know, I was at wit's end, and I started thinking really negative thoughts. Oh, they want to mess with me? Okay, I can mess back. And I started actually having conscious thoughts about, well, I can play the game. And I thought about it, and I thought, that's wrong, don't do it. And then I thought for a second, and I thought, no, I'm going to do it. And when I had that thought, my lights, it was like the light in the room started going zzz, zzz. it started flickering on and off. And I was immediately like, forgive me, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to stoop to their level, you know. But right there, it was reacting to my negative energy, my thoughts. I decided I am going to do what I know is wrong, you know, and I had to ask for forgiveness of that. But, you know, there were so many instances in the house. I believe that what was there really wanted me to take myself out. It wanted to drive me to the bottom of the barrel so I would just give up. And there were times I felt like it, but I wouldn't do it. You know, I somehow mustered up enough strength to keep fighting. But the reason the book is titled Nightmare in Holmes County, there were many times I felt like this is a nightmare, but I can't wake up from it. You know, I feel like I'm trapped in a nightmare and I can't wake up, you know? So that is why I titled the book Nightmare in Holmes County. But, you know, there were lots of very negative experiences. The closer I got to finding out why the house was haunted, the more the activity escalated. And one of the most scary things that happened to me in that house, this was in the fall of 2009. And, you know, to sleep, one of the best ways for me to sleep was turn on like some deliverance ministers VHS tapes, or find somebody on TV that talked about this stuff, because I felt like I have peace in knowing that there's people that can deal with this, you know. And I was watching a video by a minister named Perry Stone, and the video I had ordered, it was called Purging Your House. I was looking for information anywhere on how I could get rid of what was in this house. And I kind of dozed off. And then I woke up around 3:30 in the morning, and I decided to get up and use the restroom. Now, in my house, I had at the top of the stairs in the foyer, when you walked out, you know, the bedroom doors were right there, and you walked out onto this landing, and then there was another door that right at the top of the stairs that led to the bathroom. And I go in the bathroom, and now I'm in this house in the middle of nowhere. I have the doors locked. I always lock my doors. I had a security system that was armed. And okay, everything's safe and secure. Okay. Out of the blue, I hear knock, knock on the bathroom door. And these doors were solid oak doors. There's no way I imagined I heard it, or it was some other noise. It was a knock on the bathroom door. And it scared me so bad. Like I started to say what, because it's a natural reaction. Somebody knocks on the door, you say what, you know, if you're in your house, you know. And, as I started to say what, like my thoughts are racing, and I'm thinking nobody could be in the house because they would have set off the alarm. You know, my mom has a key, but she lives 3 counties away from me. She wouldn't show up here in the middle of the night like that, and she would have set off the alarm, you know? So I'm having all these thoughts. And again, at that point, I'm like trying to rebuke what is there, and I'm trying to tell it, you know, in Jesus' name I bind you, or get out of my house, or something to that effect. And I'm literally yelling, but all that is coming out is a whisper, because my throat is so tight because I'm so scared. You know, it's like a nightmare. You know, when you dream something and you're trying to run and you can't run, or you try to scream and nothing comes out. But this was happening in real life. I was wide awake. That situation there definitely scared me. I remember I thought, what time does the sun come up? Because I'm staying in the bathroom until the sun comes up. You know, I don't even want to leave the bathroom. Go ahead.
Did you ever reach out and get any help from anybody?
I attempted to. Ultimately, yes, I did. And it was from an unlikely source, the way the whole thing came together. I tried to get help multiple times from different ministers. You know, that was kind of like, in all honesty, the church has kind of fallen short in this whole area of spiritual warfare in reality. So people that are going through things like this, good luck, because finding someone to help you is very difficult.
Very true.
So I had tried. Now, I will say this. There was a group from a church, and I share this whole story in the book. You know, it's kind of a negative story. I'm going to be honest. It's not really favorable for this church or the group that came to my house from the church. But there was something good that came from it. there was one lady that was part of this group that came to the house. And she told me she had a gift of discerning of spirits, as she called it. And they came into the house, and she had not heard all my stories. And someone in the group suggested that we pray right off the bat. So we're praying, and this lady says, I know what its name is. Do you want to know its name? Oh. And I said, yeah, what's its name? And I'll never forget the way she phrased this. She said, it calls itself the doorkeeper. And of course, when I found that out, now all these puzzle pieces suddenly fall into place, and all these experiences around the door, the doorbell ringing when there was nobody there, seeing shadows go across the porch when there was nobody there, things like this that had happened over and over. Now it starts making sense. She walked through the house. She went down to the basement. There was the basement wall right underneath the front door. There's a crack that appeared in that wall shortly after the house was built, from top to bottom. I never thought much of it other than, it's probably settling. She goes right to that crack, and she said, now the way the house was laid out, again, I don't think you would walk in there and be like, hey, I'm right underneath the front door right now. I don't think you would think about that. But she walks down there, and she walks up to that crack, and she says, what's right above this upstairs? And I said, the front door. She said, that crack's significant. She goes back up, she goes to the front door, and she says, they come and go right through here. And she's moving her hand back and forth in front of the door, like they're entering and exiting through there. So ultimately, I did get help, because I do think that was a good piece of information. But it was later that year, I ran across a girl that I went to grade school with, and I hadn't talked to her in years. And I think, if I'm remembering right, she sent me a friend request out of the blue on Facebook, and we started talking. And I was already at the point of, yeah, you might think I'm crazy, but I'm going to tell you what I'm going through. And I told her, I said, you can think I'm crazy, but my house is haunted, and I told her some stories. She said, here's my phone number, call me. So I called her. She says, tell me more details. So I'm telling her details, and she fully believed me. And she said, where's your house? And I told her. And I said, it's in Holmes County. And I gave her, the directions right where it was at. And she said, my husband was adopted by an Amish family when he was a child, but he never joined the Amish church. And she said, I believe he lived close to where your house is. She said, I'm going to talk to him and see if he knows anything that could be helpful to you. So a few days later, he calls me. And he said, I had shared with her that I was part of what I was dealing with. I at times believed it was the whole problem, but it was not. There were people that lived around me that were into witchcraft and the occult, old world witchcraft, and they were Amish people. And they were hexing me. They were doing things against me. And I figured that out, but I kept thinking that's the whole problem, but it was not. And when this her name was Angela, when her husband, they called me a few days later, and she put him on the phone. His name was Dennis. And Dennis said, well, Angie told me that you think, the Amish are done witchcraft against you. And I said, yes, I do. And he said, I guarantee you're right, but that's not your biggest problem. He said, you have a way bigger problem than that.
Wow.
He then proceeded to tell me the history of that land. Things that I never knew. I'd been there almost 8 years. I knew none of these things. And he told me, he said, the Amish know all this, but they're never going to tell you. He said, they told me because I was in their home. He goes, I was one of them. But he said, even though I never joined the church, they raised me. And he said, that's how I know this stuff. Mm-hmm. So we had, and in the book, I go into great detail what I was dealing with. But with that information now, even though I had repeatedly walked the property alone and tried to make it leave, now I could be specific, and I could, with 2 other people with me, which makes a massive difference. We could walk the whole property. We could be very, very aggressive against what was there. And I will tell you, another issue was, I do believe there were battles there and people died there. And I think when there's bloodshed on land, I think that it defiles the land. And I think that was a whole nother issue that we did address when we did the so-called exorcism, if you will, on the land. We'd addressed that and everything else I could even think might be related. And all the activity stopped after that day. And as far as for me, it stopped. The people that helped me had experiences. There were people that came to my house that night. They had experiences after they left, but I had no more activity. Within 60 days of the day we did the exorcism, the house was sold. The people that bought its loan was closed, and I was moved within 60 days. I had that house on the market trying to sell it for 2 years and 10 months. So just under 3 years with no success. After we did the exorcism, the house sold that quickly. The activity stopped. I moved on. You know, they didn't give me much time to get out of the house, the people that bought it. So I was kind of scrambling. The girl I was dating at the time, she said, hey, there's this big brick house I found that's for sale. And she leads me to this house, which ended up being 225th Street. So she shows me the house. I thought, yeah, this could actually work for me. You know, there's a huge detached garage. There's a garage out back that's detached. The whole yard is fenced in. This house is big. It's nice, you know. So I moved into that house fully expecting I'm going to write a book about what I just went through in Holmes County. I'm going to title it Nightmare in Holmes County. And I believe I am to share how I was delivered of a terrible situation that I thought would never end. It ended. I was victorious, and I'm going to write about it. I'm going to share this story. So as I move into this other house, I am writing Nightmare in Holmes County. I'm starting to write it. And I start having strange things happen at 225th Street. And like right away, I had very odd, almost insignificant things. But when I look back now, I don't believe they were insignificant. But I had things happen early on. And one thing that really got to me, this is probably a little over a week after I moved in. Actually, it was right about a week after I moved in. I went to my bedroom one night when I got home from work, and I lived alone with my cats, and my dogs were outside in the one big detached garage. So I moved in. I moved in the very last week of February in 2010. I believe this event happened on March 1st. 2010. I go up to my bedroom. I open the door. My bed's sitting at a strange angle, like somebody moved it. And I thought, well, that's weird. Who moved my bed, you know? And I thought, well, my cousin was here, and he's doing some things. He found some things in the house that needed fixed. And he did wire in a satellite TV outlet for my bedroom. And so he did that, you know, as soon as I moved in, but he must have came up here today when I was at work and checked his work or something. I'll ask him about it tomorrow. I'm sure that's all this is. There's nothing else to this. So I straighten my bed. I get ready for bed. I lay down. And when I laid down, I had my bedroom door shut. But it was like I was suddenly standing outside of my bedroom door looking down the stairs. And that was the angle I was seeing this scene through. And I believe this was a vision that I had. There was a hooded figure coming up the staircase. Obviously a black hood. He looked like, I could see his face. He looked like an old man. He was skinny. He had his complexion looked like he was dead. It reminded me of a person in a coffin. He had a sinister grin on his face, and he was like looking down, and he was like coming up the stairs. He was kind of round shouldered, like he was slouching. And he was coming up the stairs. And I opened my eyes and I thought, what in the world was that? You know, I'm not scared. You know, when you're scared, your mind conjures up scary stuff or something, you know, but I'm not scared. I'm sure my cousin moved my bed. Tomorrow he'll tell me he did it. And there's nothing to this, you know, there's no way I could have another haunted house. And I know nothing followed me from Holmes County because that exorcism was complete and decisive, and I'm out of that mess. That nightmare is over. But I shut my eyes, and there I was again. It was like I was outside the bedroom door looking down the stairs. I can see this hooded figure. And the image I'm seeing, you know, when you remember something or picture something in your mind, it's not crystal clear. What I was seeing was crystal clear, razor sharp definition. And, you know, this happened like 3 or 4 more times. Altogether, I believe it happened about 4 times. And after like the last time, every time I'd shut my eyes, I would see it again. And I said out loud, I knew nothing about the history of the house at that point, but I said out loud, just a prayer similar to what I learned to pray in Holmes County. And I said, in Jesus' name, I renounce every sin that's happened in this house, and I bind the demons and cast you out in Jesus' name. Something to that effect. And I shut my eyes. There was no more vision. Everything was fine. I went to sleep. I told three people that story. I told the girl I was dating. I told her and her oldest son. I'm sorry, it was 4 people. I told her and her oldest son. The following Friday night, we went out for pizza, and I told him about it. I told my mother, and I told my best friend. And every time I told him, I kept saying, I'm sure there's nothing to this. There's no way this house is haunted, but listen to what happened, you know? And as it turns out, a few days later, my neighbor comes over, and I began having activity or strange things happening in the house that I really started thinking, there's no way this place can be haunted, but something's not right here. And I would tell my mom, I would say, there's no way something followed me, but it feels like something's not right in this house. One thing that I never knew was significant until I wrote the second edition of the book. Now I know it was significant, and I know why. But at that time, early on in that house, I would lock my doors and I would get ready to go up the staircase up to bed. And I would feel like I was being watched. And I would stop and I would look over my shoulder across the living room. And I would always have this thought. I would think, this reminds me of what it would feel like to be in a funeral home after hours. And what a strange thought, you know? Why would I be thinking about being in a funeral home after hours in the middle of the night? What's that have to do with this house? That's crazy, you know? So I always thought it was interesting, but I never knew its significance. So a few days later, my neighbor comes over. He introduces himself one Saturday. Really nice guy. So Sunday, he comes back, and my mom and my sister and my brother-in-law stopped, and they were visiting with me. And we were standing on the porch. So my neighbor, in the book, I changed his name just out of respect to him. He's a very nice individual. And Steve comes over with his girlfriend, walks over to my house, and he's talking, you know, he says, hey, you're welcome here. I want you to know, if you need help with anything, we all help each other. If you need help with something, you let somebody know, we will help you. He said, you're welcome here. I want you to know that. And I said, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And he said, well, that's the good news. Now for the bad news. And I knew what he was going to say. I looked right at him. I looked him right in the eye, and I said, you're going to tell me my house is haunted. And his eyes got big and his mouth dropped open like he was shocked that I knew it. And he said, yeah, man, it is. Some dude killed himself in your basement a long time ago. So wow. I turned around, I looked at my mom, and I said, I told you so. And my sister's saying, what's he talking about? Oh, no, what's he talking about? Not again, you know, because I just come out of the Holmes County situation. And my sister's saying, not again. What is he talking about? And my mom's saying, he told me he thought something, you know, wasn't right here in this house. Wow. So at that point, I was very confident. We're going to do another exorcism on this house. I'm going to be fine. Everything's fine, you know. So my neighbor goes back home, and I knew at that moment, I knew that book I'm writing about Holmes County has to go on the back burner. I am going to write a book about this house first. The title is going to be the address, which is 225th Street. And I have to put all my energy into researching this history of this house and haunting. And I put all my energy into that. So that is why Nightmare in Holmes County was written as a prequel and released in 2015. And 225th Street was released in 2011. But at that point, I began researching. I began tracking down people who had lived in the house. And all the families that had lived there before me sold the house to another family, never told them that they thought the house was haunted, never told them that there had been a suicide in the house. So when I bought the house, I was buying it off. I was in the process of buying it, and I was buying it from a realtor who had bought it at a sheriff's sale and redid everything. He put in new carpet, repainted the interior, everything, you know. So that's who I was buying it from. So when I tracked down these families that had been there, they had nothing to lose by talking to me. a lot of them wanted to share their stories because they felt that something followed them. They felt like they never really got closure on the things they experienced in the house. So these different people are telling me their stories. I'm still living in the house. I was there 3 months altogether. And their stories are all coinciding with each other. They're all similar stories or almost identical stories that different families experienced. And of course, there was a reoccurring issue with a hooded figure. So that is kind of how 225th Street was, came to be. I lived there 3 months, and I researched while I was there. I researched then up into 2011, and I wrote the book during that whole time. But again, then when I was contacted in 2020, I knew over the years since I wrote the book, I had befriended people that lived there before me. There was one older woman that I considered a very dear friend. And that was one positive thing that came from my time there, was meeting this lady. She was a very good friend. And she shared a lot with me. And she was probably the worst affected by the house. I mean, she had very bad things happen to her and her family while she lived there. But I befriended her. She told me all, horrible stories. Other people told me horrible stories. But after I had moved out and released to 25th Street, we maintained a close friendship. And she suffered greatly after that time, even being in that house. Her family suffered greatly. There were things, their unexplained death, very strange things that just keep reoccurring to the people who live in that house. In the new edition, the second edition, I should say, of 225th Street, I share these details of the reoccurring horrific events and unexplained death, demonic attachments that follow. My mother is probably the most devout Christian I know. Okay. She had a demonic attachment because she would come to that house and stay there. Just because otherwise I had, my friends lifted weights, they were tough guys, but nobody wanted to stay in the house with me. They were like, forget it. I'm not coming to that house. You're on your own on this one, so the girl I was dating stayed a couple times, but my mom would stay. She had an attachment that we didn't realize till years later that followed her from that house. So,
Wow.
that environment to me was like a portal.
Yeah, they have a way of finding you. They have a way of finding you, these houses.
Yes.
I mean,
Well, that's where we believe the house picks you
yes,
somehow.
that's what I feel.
You think you're picking the house, but the house picks
The
you.
house chooses you.
Let me ask you this, Patrick. We are coming down to the tail end of the hour, but how's your life now?
I'm going to be honest with you. I have a completely different outlook. I'm sure you guys can attest to what I'm going to say. You don't go through that and your life's not changed. Now your eyes are open. Now you understand there is a spiritual realm more real than a physical realm, because the spiritual realm's eternal. The physical realm is not.
Yes.
That's how I see life now. Everything is based on what I see as reality, which is, we have what we physically see here and now, but there's a spiritual realm also. Since I agreed to republish the books, I came through a lot of attack before. And that's why I hadn't written since 2015 when that book was released. I quit writing because of the things I was going through. And I knew when I agreed to rewrite the books, there's going to be more battles ahead. And that's life. But I signed on knowing that. So all I can say is, life is a battle between good and evil. I feel like Earth's a battleground between heaven and hell. And I feel like I'm not going to back down. I'm not going to not partake in the battle. I feel like I'm supposed to. I have things in life that make me happy. That's all good. I'm very happy that I survived those environments and I did not suffer some of the things other people suffered. But I also recognize, dealing with it and sharing the story will cost you, but I do believe, You know, I feel like the church is AWOL, absent without leave. We've been called to a battle, and they're not fighting. And I think people like me and you know what, you're called to it. You have to do it. That's that, you know? So that's how I see life anymore. You know,
What's good?
You know, Christopher Quarantino, he is Christopher Lutz. He is the one child that survived the Amityville horror in real life. He's a friend of mine. Years ago, we were talking over Skype. He lives in Arizona. We were talking over Skype one night, and we were talking about all this. We, you know, similar beliefs and views on all these things we experienced. And he said, you know, we're gonna experience this till the day we stand before the throne. And I said, yeah, that's exactly right. This is life. That's how it's going to be now. So I accept that.
Patrick, you know what it is? You're a messenger. I'm a messenger.
Yep.
So basically, you know, whatever you believe, I believe in God, and God left it up to you to say, hey, you're fighting the battle, and you're teaching people as well how to get through it with the sword of the good, the bad, the evil, and the truth that it does exist. And I will say this to the listener out there. Now, I never talked to Patrick ever before. Since we've been doing the show for the last hour, the bulb across from us that I mentioned popped, and then it relit, and it's on and off again during this show, which I'm finding to be very interesting. So to me, that's an acknowledgement of what you're saying. This spirit, whatever it is acknowledging what you're talking about. That's why I asked you, how is your life now? Do these things ever leave? You know what? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Quite frankly, there's that big question mark. You look good. You're telling your story good.
Thank you.
We're relating to your experiences because we've dealt with some of the stuff you're talking about. But I like the way you're presenting it and putting it out there and teaching the world. And I would say to you, you know, keep doing what you're doing. Yes, keep getting your story and your message out there, because you're a messenger. And people need to know that no matter what the battle is, there's light at the end of this storm. And I'll go through it, even up to the day that I'm ready to cross over and my Creator accepts me for who I am. I've taught the world the lessons I've learned.
That's right.
And to the listener out there, there's good, there's evil, positive, negative, there's the bad, there's the ugly. And it's people like Patrick who is brave enough to share the story of what he's dealt with. A lot of people, you know, they put this behind the corners and they're afraid to share it, but we appreciate what you're doing. And we want to thank you. So really quick, before we end the show, do you have any books that you want to put up to the camera?
You know what? I don't have any in front of me right at the moment. I'm sorry. I don't. That's actually. I wish I thought of that. So can you give the listener the names of the books once again and where to find the books and what you have going on next? Absolutely. The books are titled Nightmare in Holmes County and 220 Fifth Street. These are both now available as second editions, greatly updated and expanded from the first editions. They were both released this year. They are available at Amazon. You can go to Beyond the Fray Publishing.com for more information as well. I'm going to do more interviews. I am working on another book that will be out later this year. The goal is to have it done by the end of the year. It's going to be called Shadows and Light. It is going to have multiple stories and evidence and proof of what I'm saying. You know, I think it's going to blow some minds. But
we believe you.
It's all going to have a happy ending, but it's going to be a horrific ride, put it that way. But that's my goal. And I really want to make a documentary of 225th Street. That's a goal. You know, that's a big chore, but that's something I do want to do.
That would be a great documentary. Hey, Patrick, thank you so much for coming on Horsefly Chronicles Radio. The show is pretty much over. We're just going to make the final announcement, and we look forward to reaching out to you once again and seeing what you have going on, how your life is doing down the road. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on tonight. We also want to thank Carnation for sponsoring our show, and join us again next Monday at 7 CT and 8 ET, coming live from United Public Radio, 107.7 FM, and 105.3 FM from New Orleans. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Everyone have a safe, great week, and we'll catch you next Monday night. Thank you, Patrick. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.